Get started. We were in another meeting. Some of us are on this call. They were on the previous call as well, discussing some important matters. Let me say this: that thank you so much to your leadership, your faculty, your staff, all of you. We are going through some challenging times. There is no way to underestimate that. But the work continues. Work of helping students, our mission remains unchanged. In Maryland, I'm so inspired by the work that's happening on our campuses. In spite of these challenges, this is absolutely remarkable. We will stay focused, we'll stay together, we'll collaborate, and we'll make advances. Today's agenda is rather full, and there are a lot of very important items, and they speak to the truth that we are here to help our students, and we'll continue to do that. With that, Dr. Dow, let's start. I understand our colleagues from CodePath are here. Very important work. This gives us an opportunity again to provide the economic mobility, alignment of our programs with business industry needs, everything that we need to do in this time. This project provides us that opportunity. Dr. Dow, take it from here.
Great, thank you. Before we hop into our presentation by CodePath, if we can do a quick round of approval of minutes for the July 24th and the September 16th meeting, that would be great. We'll do these as two separate motions. A motion to approve the July 24th, 2024.
So moved.
Great, thank you, Dr. Keys. A second. I know it's a small group.
I'll second.
Thank you, Brad. Oh, we did balloons there, I just saw. I don't know how you got balloons there. All approved for the July 24th meeting minutes? Say aye or hand raise.
Aye.
Okay, great. We'll move on to the September 16th motion to approve.
Well, I move to approve the September 16th minutes.
I appreciate you, Dr. Keys. Thank you. A second, please.
Might as well, Emily. No balloons
Brad.
this time.
No balloons this time, but thank you. All in favor? Raise of hands or just say aye, as long as there's no abstentions. Great. Okay, we will move on to a presentation from CodePath. Just to situate you all, CodePath is an organization that is very involved in cybersecurity and supporting students. You're going to get an overview of what they do and who they are. They're not new to Maryland. They are already working with a number of institutions, and we're interested in leveling up this work so that it's not an institution by institution initiative, but kind of is a more statewide coordinated effort through our agency in collaboration with the Department of Labor and with the governor's office. So with that, we have a very short presentation from CodePath. The purpose of this presentation is for you as segmental leaders to be aware of who they are, what they're trying to do here in Maryland. Make sure you have an opportunity to ask questions, as we'll continue to be reaching out to campuses, again, to streamline a more statewide effort. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Emily Chong, who will do a brief overview of CodePath. Emily, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Dow, and thank you so much, Secretary Rai, for inviting us to today's meeting. Really lovely to meet you all and introduce you to CodePath, as well as our work and impact here in Maryland and also elsewhere. I also want to give a quick shout out to my two colleagues over at CodePath who are joining me today. I want to say shout out to Keithy Williams, who is calling in from Atlanta. Keithy leads a lot of our place-based expansion work. And I also want to give a shout out to Tori Darby, who leads a lot of our university partnerships work. And she is based in Bowie, Maryland. So right in folks' backyard. So really quickly, who are we? Well, CodePath, we exist essentially to create the best computer science talent in the country. So a little bit of background about, how we started. We actually started back in 2013. Our co-founders were serial entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley. And back in the day, we used to run engineering onboarding programs for companies like Airbnb, Pinterest, Meta, etc. And what they saw in 2017 through our work with Facebook, through Facebook University, was that there was a much greater opportunity for CodePath to bring our curriculum to the higher ed ecosystem and ultimately offer a quality education to all college students at no cost. So in 2017, we shifted, we changed from codepath.com to codepath.org. And today, our mission is to create the first AI native generation of engineers, CTOs, and founders. We've been scaling rapidly, growing 2 to 3x every semester. I'm proud to say that as of beginning of this year, we've already taught over 30,000 computer science students, coming from over 700 colleges and universities in the US. So really excited to accelerate our work, especially here in Maryland. One thing we also want to emphasize is that we are a privately funded nonprofit. So we are here today thanks to the support of many of our donors, including Blue Meridian Partners, Mackenzie Scott Bezos, as well as corporate foundations like Comcast, Meta, and Microsoft and the likes. And really, it's thanks to their support. That's why we are here doing what we think we do best, which is to deliver no cost quality education to students and supporting our higher education partners. So a little bit of how we work. Basically, there are 3 prongs to our model. We essentially work with companies to create industry-led curriculum. So for example, our cybersecurity curriculum was actually originally created way back in the day in partnership with Alex Stamos, the former chief security officer of Facebook. We then bring that curriculum to the universities. And so today, our main modality is to offer this as a non-credit virtual course to college students nationwide, but we also work with a handful of universities to embed our courses on campus for credit. So for example, we are already working with Morgan State University and the University of Maryland in Eastern Shore, led by my colleagues here. And then finally, last but not least, we know that training and upskilling is only sort of half of the job. We also work with over 65 employer partners like Amazon, like Salesforce, to provide employer-led programming. So ultimately, our goal is that these students land the most competitive technical roles in the industry. In terms of the types of courses that we offer, I'll fly through this. Basically, our courses are oriented across 5 different pathways. Our most popular course is what we call technical interview preparation. Basically, for any student that wants to enter the tech industry, they will need to master challenging algorithmic problems and whiteboarding solutions. And that is something that all of our students want to take. Many of our higher ed partners get really excited when we share that we offer this intensive course. We also offer all sorts of other courses, but then I also want to highlight that in late 2025, we will be launching an AI native engineering course so that we can enable all of our students to understand, practice, and develop AI-powered applications. So that is something coming down the pike. And like I said earlier, we offer, in addition to our courses, we also offer a number of programming opportunities led by our partners, whether they are internship programs for, say, sophomores or other segments of students, to our annual Emerging Engineer Summit, which is where we bring every year we bring together over 5,000 students with 50 top employers. And ultimately, it's all in the spirit of ensuring that our students are career ready and, again, land the most competitive technical role. And basically, we're very proud to say that as a result of our work, we are changing lives and delivering outcomes. So we're very proud to say that compared to the average CS grads in the US, our alumni usually see an average salary of $92.5K coming out of graduation. We also see that our alums are 8 times more likely to land a technical role at a Fortune 500 company and 80% increase in successful job or internship placement. And we're very much invested in Maryland. And so as Dr. Dow had suggested earlier or had mentioned earlier, we have been in Maryland since the beginning of time. Actually, even when CodePath first became a nonprofit, we had already started working with Morgan State University, and today we offer our Android development course as an elective at the school. Today, we are proud to say that we've already trained over 900 plus students coming from 24 different institutions. So there's a very good chance that we have CodePath students at your institution. And especially if you are representing one of the higher ed institutions where your logo is here. So we are scaling our impact rapidly. Since 2020, our student enrollment in Maryland has grown over 1,100%. We do not plan to stop here. My team and I, our goal is to capture 20% of the total computer science population by 2028. And ultimately, our goal is to serve as many students as possible so that ultimately they land the most competitive technical roles. And that is why we are here today, because we would love to share with you all. And then, like I said, our students do land jobs. And so we know that many institutions, many community partners care a lot about local employers. And so we're proud to say that when we did this recent poll of our 2024 graduates, many of them are landing positions at the local employers, including Capital One, Amazon, and other places. So how would we like to work with you? Well, there's many different options. I would say we ultimately, we are here so that we could be an additive partner to your work. We see ourselves as being able to bring the additional support so that your students can achieve the job outcomes that you also want them to achieve. So whether it is just continue to funnel students to CodePath's courses, programming, and resources, we can certainly do that. And that is sort of business as usual today, at no cost to students, at no cost to the higher ed partners. But there are also other options where we would love to work with you and ultimately and hopefully embed our curriculum and programming into your campuses and really just provide that additional support so that as many students at your institutions are achieving top engineering jobs in the country and in Maryland. So with that, that is my little pitch. Just want to say thank you for this little bit of time to Dr. Dow and Secretary Rye. And yeah, we are here. Feel free to scan the QR code if you'd like to speak further or learn more.
Great. Thank you, Emily. So again, there's not, as segment representatives, there's not an ask for this particular presentation. This is really for you to be situationally aware. Our agency is going to be working very closely with CodePath in the coming months to do targeted outreach to specific institutions that have computer science and related academic programs to see how we can further integrate CodePath into the curriculum. I would strongly encourage you to hop onto their website. Just as Emily showed in her last slide, they have lots of different resources that are free to students and the campuses. So this is a perfect opportunity to leverage something that already exists to improve the computer science and computer science related academic programs. And then certainly we can talk about incorporating credit-bearing coursework into the curriculum that is up to date, state-of-the-art, informed by industry, that CodePath does that heavy lift so that your faculty don't. So I'll stop there. I think you get it, and open it up for any questions. Emily, Tori, Keith, did I get all of that right? Did I represent well? Okay. Questions from Segmental Advisory Council reps on any of this? You will get these slides so that you can circulate it to your respective groups as you see fit. Dr. Phillips.
Two things really quick, and thank you so much for the presentation. I was curious, how do you partner with local employers to get your students jobs? I noticed that you had Capital One, AWS, Amazon. Do you have a relationship with employers that go through this program, get jobs?
Yes, we do. So we have a longstanding partnership with Capital One. They actually provide a number of their software engineers as mentors to our students. So that's sort of like one flavor of partnership that we have with an employer. Another one that my colleague Tori Darby can also speak more to is Amazon. So we do work closely with the HQ2 team in Crystal City, right? And that partnership ranges anywhere from they have sponsored our technical interview prep course and have provided scholarships to the student participants, ultimately so that they can tap into the talent earlier. And we are also working on some joint events across multiple institutions at the moment. And then last but not least, there are other flavors of partnerships like Salesforce. We have a technical internship program for sophomores. And then others are more about branding. They sponsor our annual summit. So really it runs the gamut, but hopefully that provides a bit of flavor.
It does. Thank you very much. And the only other question I had was, Emily, when you circulate their presentation, can we get email addresses for follow-up?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, great. Pending no other questions from
Can
CodePath colleagues. Oh, Secretary Rai, go for it.
Yes. So thank you, Emily. Thank you, CodePath team. We are really excited about this partnership. We are working very hard in Maryland to align our programs with business industry needs. And we have a singular purpose. We want our students to get these jobs. So that's why this is very attractive to us. It will be important for you, if possible, to go and make a similar presentation to each segment. I know, our different segments have different meetings, different platforms. As much as possible, if you could make presentations there, that will be important. We heard computer science. We didn't hear cybersecurity as much today, but cybersecurity is very much in play here. We are cyber capital of the nation, and we want to get better and better. So that's important. For every segment, if you're listening to me, I'm excited about technical interview part. I'm excited about everything, but technical interview part is very important. That's where many of our students, especially our cybersecurity students, have some challenges. And these challenges are more often to our first generation students. So having them technical interview prep opportunity will be extremely beneficial. I have to tell you, they know everything as much as anyone else. It's just that interview becomes a barrier for them. I have spoken to many of them. Just with a little bit preparation, they can be as competitive, or if not more competitive, with the students from other parts of the country. So technical interview, if that can be part of advising within the cybersecurity, within computer science system, or if that can be embedded in some capstone course somewhere that the students have to complete that technical interview part. So suppose they are graduating in the spring 2025. So maybe spring 2024, they should have done their technical interview, because fall they start applying and taking the interviews, right? So if there is a systematic way to scale it up so that every computer science cybersecurity graduate in the state of Maryland has access to CodePath's technical interview course. So those are some of the things we'll be working on. Thank you so much for all your help and support.
Absolutely. Yeah, we fully agree, and we're more than excited to provide additional support to all the students. And I love talking about our work, so welcome all the opportunities to keep talking.
Great. Thank you. With that, we will move on with our agenda. CodePath colleagues, you're welcome to stay on or hop off, whatever you feel comfortable doing. I'm going to turn it over to our Deputy Secretary, Elena Kiera-Slavanis, to provide a couple of updates on federal policy and educator preparation. So over to our Deputy Secretary. Take it away.
Thank you, Assistant Secretary Dow. Buenos dias, everyone. Good morning and happy Monday. Thank you to our CodePath colleagues it is Monday. Yes. Thank you to our CodePath colleagues for joining us. Always really exciting to hear about the partnerships that MHEC can facilitate with organizations like CodePath. And I love that we were able to bring them to Segmental. So excited to see what comes from there. And I want to thank Dr. Dow for facilitating that relationship. I know that the minute you found out about the opportunity to really leverage that partnership, you wanted to bring it to segments to make sure that everybody knew about the work that was happening. So grateful for your leadership in that regard under Secretary Rye's direction. So just a couple of updates. We did have a meeting last week with the presidents. I believe it was Tuesday morning where we brought folks together from the independent and public institutions, community colleges, and baccalaureate to research awarding institutions to talk about what's happening down in DC. And one of the items that came out of that meeting was Secretary Rye mentioned the desire to bring folks together on a more regular basis to at least start sharing information regarding how institutions are responding to the various executive orders, FAQs, Dear Colleague letters, whatever it may be that is coming out of the Department of Education. Last week, we did see 2 letters go out to campuses within Maryland regarding 2 separate investigations, one at the Johns Hopkins University, the other at Towson University. We started the week off with the Johns Hopkins. We ended the week with Towson and are available to provide any support and coordination in that regard. But things are moving quickly, and at the same time, they are fluid, and there are a lot of questions that arise. And so Secretary Rye did indicate a desire to coordinate more closely together as a system. And so one of the ideas that we wanted to propose to this group as our Segmental Advisory Council was, should we be bringing a small group of presidents together on a bi-weekly basis, representing all of the segments to do that kind of coordination? We know that individual campuses and the systems themselves might be meeting on a weekly basis. We feel like monthly might not be with enough frequency, so that bi-weekly cadence felt like it was just right. We also know that the presidents are incredibly busy, and so we felt like a subset of leaders that represented each of the segments might be the way to go. But we wanted to offer this to you for your feedback to see, does this seem like the right approach? We know that there were a lot of requests for guidance at the beginning of the transition, especially after the initial executive orders were put out on January 21st. We feel like it's really difficult to put out guidance and then actively update it on a regular basis to the point where it's not static and then all of a sudden irrelevant 24 hours later because of how quickly things are changing. So this again just felt like a different approach of bringing people together. If you were in a similar role during the pandemic, it might feel like a page out of that playbook. So I'll stop there to get your feedback from the segments. And this is my first time facilitating a segmental item, so I don't have balloons for you, but why don't we do Matt and then Brad?
Thank you so much, Deputy Secretary. I think conceptually that sounds good. I think if you did maybe a half hour bi-weekly, right? And if there's things to talk about, there are. If there aren't, then just sort of, blow that one off. I think the other piece of it is outside of even direct guidance from MHEC or the state on the federal situation, what might be valuable is for, I think one of the biggest things is the president's just figuring out what other people are doing and how they're responding to some of these things, recognizing that there isn't a lot of guidance and there's so many of them are going to play on the court over the next year or longer. But I think, some component of it that was sort of a peer-to-peer, I think would be well received by my folks anyway. And are you thinking 2 or 3 presidents per segment, or what is something along those lines? Okay. Yeah, I think I would be able to sell that, I think. Thank you.
Matt already said everything that I was thinking as well. It's very helpful to know kind of how other segments are dealing with issues. For example, Towson, how are they going to respond to that? Because there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to how these letters are being sent out and why certain institutions, when they're probably not doing something that the rest aren't doing as well. So hearing from each other, knowing how we're reacting, kind of keeping solidarity, I think would be helpful for my segment as well. And it doesn't necessarily have to be every 2 weeks. We can start that way, see how things go. Hopefully this fast and furious EO time period is winding down. We can kind of dig into what we need to do.
Great. Thank you both so much. If there are no further comments, we can summarize what the proposal is and then reach out to the respective segments for representation. Agreed that we would probably start on a biweekly cadence and then revisit whether or not we need to meet with that frequency, and also appreciate that so much of this, and this is what Secretary Rye has really wanted to lift up, the opportunity for folks to exchange what is happening and how they are approaching the situation is incredibly invaluable, especially because this is also so new to so many of us. I might just layer on that these moments are incredibly important. And so how we respond now will matter much more later on down the road as well. And so Dr. Phillips, to your point around solidarity, we're not just responding on behalf of a single institution in some cases. You are signaling on behalf of the state. Thank you again, and please know that MHEC is here to support in any way that we can. And just to echo Dr. Rye's comments from the top, thank you for your leadership during these difficult times. Related to the federal policy update is that we know that a lot of folks in Maryland unfortunately have lost their jobs. Over 12% of the Maryland economy is made up of federal workers. And so Governor Moore, about 2.5 weeks ago, announced a 5-point plan on how Maryland is going to be protecting our residents and responding to this crisis. One of the elements of that plan was recruiting federal workers who have lost their jobs and have some expertise and interest in teaching and recruiting them into the classroom. And so MHEC has been working diligently with our colleagues at MSDE, the Governor's Office of Children, and in other agencies to try to develop, and if not develop, expand existing pathways. Many of these pathways that we could use to bring folks who are federal workers into the classroom exist at our community colleges. We know that there has already been a ton of innovation there for supporting folks who are changing careers. So we are really interested in lifting that work up. We also know that there's some exciting work coming out of the University System of Maryland. And so we just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of these efforts. Our goal is to have a report to Governor Moore by April 14th, but as Secretary Rye constantly reminds me, it's not just about the report. We also need to be ready to act. We are well positioned to act. The system of higher education for a long time has been dedicated to the movement of addressing the teacher shortage, but also diversifying the teacher workforce. So this is a really good opportunity for the system of higher education here in Maryland to step in and support these federal workers. Did just want to see if there were any questions about that work. I know that we'll be joining the community college presidents at the end of the week and can hopefully talk about some specifics. I did want to recognize my colleagues at MSDE. They are having many conversations around what they can do to support the institutions of higher education who might be modifying or creating new programs. We might be putting, the idea is that we will, not might, but we'll most likely be putting together a technical assistance webinar for any institution that is interested in participating. And that way we can kind of walk through what participation would look like in the coming week. So we'll share information on that probably next week, because April 14th is right around the corner. If there are no questions, Secretary Rye, is there anything that you want to add? I know this is a major priority for us here at MHEC.
Thank you very much. It's a priority for us, and it's an opportunity for us as well. We have been struggling to find highly qualified teachers for our classrooms. Today we have 6,000 conditionally certified teachers. Throughout the state this year, we'll hire another 1,600 or so teachers. So I think this is a great opportunity. Some of our residents who are in very unfortunate situation, they have undergraduate degrees, master's degrees, and tremendous amount of experience. I was talking to some scientists at National Cancer Institute just last week, and they told me, Dr. Rai, if certification was easier, I would just quit. These are PhDs in chemistry and biology and physics. They're ready to teach in high school. And what a great, while it's an unfortunate thing, impact on our research and everything, but we gain that experience in classroom and prepare our next generation of scientists. The barrier in I think teaching has always been one of the barriers, the certification process, licensing process. So MSD, MHEC are working together to simplify that as much as possible. And many of our institutions already have programs, second career as teachers. Some of those programs are close to a good fit. There may be some minor tweaking may be needed. Ideally, again, I'm speaking out of turn, but it's important. I will do that. We would like, higher education part, first MSDE and local LEAs to identify teachers, select them, and then go through the programs across the state, especially in the parts of the states that are highly impacted. There are few counties where there are lots of federal workers. And then hopefully from higher education point of view, we are in a position to start these classes from June 1st. So that's what we were working against time here. I have spoken to many of you. I really appreciate that our higher education institutions are up to it and they're working hard. They're going to be collaborative and creative to meet this goal. This is call of the hour for us, right? I think this is very important, and we will certainly meet this challenge. And I thank you again, and thank you, Elena, for your leadership. You have been working very hard, working with MSD, licensing, governor's office, and also higher ed institutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Of course, it's been a pleasure partnering with colleagues here at MHEC, including Dr. Dow, who I'm happy to pass the mic to for our next item on performance accountability.
Before I do that, I do just want to share my appreciation for Elena and her work in being able to take the lead on some of this with MSDE. She has jumped right into the deep end of the pool, and I am professionally grateful that she has done that. So thank you, Deputy Secretary Kira Slavanos. Okay, I have just a couple of updates per the agenda. One is on performance accountability report. This is specific to our public institutions. In the past 3-4 years, we have been trying to figure out how to better align the performance accountability report and really the performance accountability plan with our state plan and the reporting requirements. So let me take a step back and explain what that all means. Per the statute, there is supposed to be two things that colleges produce. One is a performance accountability plan, which highlights specific metrics, goals, and things that individual institutions are working towards. Second, institutions are supposed to be providing a performance accountability report that reports on their activities towards that plan. Historically, certainly since my tenure at the agency, we have not asked for performance accountability plans. When we realized there were kind of these two different elements around performance accountability, we took a step back and we were like, well, what should be in a plan? And then we realized it should kind of be aligned with the state plan. And then when we realized that, we had just released the 2020 state plan, and we were like, okay, now's not the time necessarily to, kind of make this all happen. So we've been having a ton of internal conversations, and I know we've been talking with campuses about the distinction between the plan and the report. And we have been communicating that we were going to be providing guidance on the plan sometime this spring. We are likely going to hold off on that at this point because we're in the midst of figuring out our new statewide goals. We are in the early stages of starting to draft our new state plan. So we feel like all of those things need to be solidified before we really go to the campuses to say, okay, now we want to know about your performance accountability plan. So the point of this agenda item is to continue on with your performance accountability reports. We will issue out guidance per our typical schedule, which I think is later this spring. And to kind of walk back our previous notion that we were going to be issuing out guidance in short order around what we would expect in a plan. Again, we are going to be working to align our guidance with what is in the state plan, with what we have for our statewide goals. But at this point, we're just going to continue on with the performance accountability reports as they currently exist. Now, we will, with commitment this time, be coming to you probably next spring, in 12 months, with an expectation that plans are updated. We will be far enough along with the development of our statewide goals, hopefully with a state plan issued or close to being issued by next spring, in which case you will have a structure, the campuses will have a structure to then adjust and develop and submit a performance accountability plan. So we're not abandoning this request. We're just trying to realign it with these upcoming initiatives around statewide goals and our state plan. So more to come on that front, but at this point, do not expect guidance on the performance accountability plan for this year. We will do that next year. I do see my colleague, Dr. Schmertz, on the call. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything, and if she has anything to add on that front, and certainly our Deputy Secretary, if you want to add anything on that. So, Dr. Schmertz, you came up. Yeah.
I do not have anything to add at this time. I'll be curious what the questions are that I may be able to contribute them.
Okay, Dr. Phillips.
No, thank you, Emily, for that explanation. I'm just trying to get my mind around this. The performance accountability reports are usually benchmarked for up to about 4 or 5 years out. And if you change the plan while they're benchmarked, it really won't work. It's redoing all of the accountability metrics and measures as well. And that should probably be in tandem with when those metrics are no longer, when that time frame has ran its course. That's, I guess, my first question. And my second is, I think if I recall, and this is really a blind recall at this moment, but the statute allows for each community college, in my case, to come up with their own metrics that address the plan. So they're able to actually define them, work on them, and come up with their own metrics. And I think for my institutions, they are primarily aligned with the state plan. And I'm worried about, well, what is this other plan if it's not the state plan? And maybe we're already doing all the things that you're sort of pointing towards, but I guess I just want to stop there and see if that's the case.
No, you're absolutely right. And we are struggling with the timing of this, knowing that the community colleges, the community colleges are different than how the public 4 years handle the performance accountability report, the metrics, setting goals, and the like. So specific to the community colleges, Brad, we know that they have been working on revising to be updated with the most recent plan, and now we're going to be coming on the heels with a new state plan. So that's all the more reason why we're kind of like, okay, let's hold for another year and continue with your work. For Dr. Beckett on the call with our USM colleagues, we've been in contact with Anthony Foster about this. The 4 years are all on a different cycle for the most part in terms of updating, and they're more aligned with MFR and the MFR process. So there is a bit of a balance. I think where the rub is we keep asking for a performance accountability report in the absence of having a plan and not knowing what the institution's plan is, and that it has been years that we have not asked for those plans to review the plans. So we need to ask for the plans at some point. We need for it to be aligned with other state initiatives like the state plan and our statewide goals. We also need to work within the construct of 16 community colleges having the same metrics, but maybe different goals for each institution. And we also need to work within the construct that we have, several public 4-year institutions who have very different missions and ultimately very different goals and very different metrics. So how do we balance all of that when we talk about a performance accountability plan with a performance accountability report? So we are going to continue to have conversations internally, but again, we recognize we've got our state plan for Maryland forthcoming. We've got our new goals forthcoming. Let's revisit this next year around the plan. Deputy Secretary.
That's super helpful. And I do want to recognize the work the community colleges have done in this space. And so I think also as an agency, there's lessons learned, right? Like that the team has flagged also about approach. I don't want to use the U word around uniformity, right? But there is something there that is really interesting, I think, for us to kind of take and learn from. What we also spoke about as a team last week is that there will be another state plan 4 years from now, or 4 years from when we approach the adoption of this one, which is also 6 months ahead of schedule, but give us 2 state plans, right, in order to fully get the alignment, I think is the other piece. Like we're going to build now with like a full, I think, performance accountability system in place by the time we adopt another state plan 4 years from now, right? And I just want to also recognize the evolution of the state plan under Dr. Dow's leadership. It has changed over time. And so I think for us, it's how do we use this document and the process to really bring the system together. So thank you to the community colleges and all of the work that they've done in this piece. I know USM has also done a lot working with Dr. Foster, but also saying this is a long runway. So work with us. It's not just the next 12 months, but it's a couple of years in the making, building off of prior years' work.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and just reiterating, we want to work within existing structures. That's what we're trying to do. We don't want to just come in and shake everything up. We want to work within the structures that the 16 community colleges have adopted and the structures that the 4 years are currently working on under, particularly in context of MFR, managing for results. So summary, concluding remarks on this front. Business as usual, performance accountability report will be expected per our typical timeline. We'll send out guidance. I think it's towards the end of spring. Dr. Schmertz, is that right? And we'll go from there. But we have not abandoned this. How are we going to figure out performance accountability plans? We're just going to continue some conversations and figure out how to do this once we have a bit more statewide strategic planning in place for that alignment. Okay. Let me move on to the next topic. I do see I'll go quickly on this front. I do want to provide a formal update to the Segmental Advisory Council on where we are with our collaboration with Aspen. We've entered into a working professional relationship with Aspen. We're thrilled to be working with Aspen. They really have been a leader nationally in helping colleges, individual colleges, do really good work around transfer. They've come to us as a state, so we're super excited about how they're doing this at a statewide level. And this is going to be a 2-year project. We're about 4 to 6 months into it already. So let me just give you some updates where we are, what this is looking. There are some explicit goals to this project. After the first year, presidents will endorse a vision and agenda around community college and 4-year transitions. Presidents and teams will participate in a 1-year professional development opportunity. That professional development opportunity kicked off at the beginning of February, and there are various checkpoints over the next 12 months where Aspen is leading the charge, talking about sharing really cool data, talking about initiatives and best practices. So I'm already thrilled with what they're doing with the colleges and universities. And after 1 year, 5 partnerships. Now, these aren't just your like transfer agreement partnerships. These are 2 institutions really coming together. And the point of these partnerships is what seems seamless to the student, whether we're talking about a dual admissions opportunity, whether a student is both a community college and a 4-year student at the same time. It's about a true partnership for the purposes of students and making it seamless for students as much as possible. So thinking through 5 specific partnerships, and we're in the midst of identifying what we're calling dyads and triads, institutions that make sense. So that's super exciting. So that's after 1 year. After the second year, we're going to have 5 timely, affordable, and barrier-free pathways. So expanding on those partnerships, thinking about those timely, affordable, barrier-free pathways in fields that either have high enrollment demand or meet the statewide workforce needs. So now we're getting into not only 2 institutions coming together to feel very seamless to the student, but then highlighting very specific programs that are of importance. That's in year 2 to target specific programmatic development. After year 2, access to transfer data. So Dr. Schmertz and her team have been very involved in this process and have been given a lot of technical support in how we understand our transfer data. And we'll be putting out a variety of dashboards that campuses can access around student mobility and programmatic mobility between institutions. And then finally, after year 2, we'll have a statewide policy agenda on next steps to really, truly keep up with this transfer work, that it's not a one and done, and think about what, as a state, are policies that need to be in place, which may or may not, I will say, include some revisions to what we have done with the Transfer with Success Act for the better. So thinking through long-term sustainability around transfer initiatives. Last slide, this just gives you a sense of the timeline of what we're talking about here. It's broken up into 3 phases. Again, here's our kickoff on February 4th. What's also, I think, really important to this work, our presidents are involved. We are doing this from a presidential level and having them recognize transfer as a strategic priority for their campus. So of these meetings, there are some specific meetings that presidents are expected to be a part of it. So gives you a sense of where we are. Our next statewide convening is March 25th. Specific to advising and education plans. So more to come. We're just starting this work, but this really will give us a framework to move institutional partnerships forward and improve transfer relationships and transfer pathways. I'm happy. We'll continue to provide updates to the Segmental Advisory Council. We have 25 institutions participating on that February 4th kickoff. There were over 180. That's just mind blowing to me that we have 180 folks attending from the campuses for this work. So I am personally thrilled about the institutional investment and excited about the potential that this may have in reforming not just transfer, but institutional relationships and what this means. Secretary Rai, I know that you came off, but I do want to recognize we do have a couple of private institutions participating, which is also really exciting. So this is not just a public initiative. So thrilled, really big shout out to MICUA for their support and recognizing how important transfer students are to our private institutions. Secretary Rai.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited about this. And I'm going to just correct Dr. Dow a little bit. We're not reforming the transfer process. We are transforming the transfer process. Our aim is to be the best in the nation. We are very good, but we are not the best. I see a lot of data where I see, significant room for improvement. I won't get into specific pieces, but you all know there are a lot of opportunities to make this process better. And I'm glad that we are looking at advising. Transfer is not just, alignment of curriculum. It's also about alignment of pedagogy. It's also about alignment of student outcomes and how we measure student learning outcomes. It's everything. And advising is also very important, and CCA already has given opportunities or some input on how advising should be done. And I think students knowing what they want to do, having a degree plan for completion as soon as they arrive on student campuses, and degree plan prepared in consultation with the faculty in the academic program. I think that's all very, very important. So I think, we will get there. Then we also need to know or find a way for well-known problems. I spent a lot of time in General Assembly, as some of you did too. Transfer kept coming up. And within that, transfer in cybersecurity kept coming up. So, and sometimes, the issues were brought very passionately, but I think I understand the reason. If the problem exists and we are not bringing an alternative forward, then I think there's a reason for criticism for our sector. So I have charged our Deputy Secretary in looking at this. This is not, in my opinion, it's not a transfer problem. It's a slightly different problem. So why cybersecurity programs do not align. There are good reasons why they don't align. And the programs that exist at 4-year, they are needed for our industry. We don't want to change that. Programs that exist at our community colleges, they are also needed for industries. So how do we create a pathway, right? So I think other states, some of them have sorted this out to some level. And we want to do that. And that work should start, I think, before the end of this academic year. At least the work should start. And we should be in a position to come up with some solution in the coming year. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Knowing that we are coming up to time, I do want to make sure I give my colleague, Mr. Dorsett, Director of the Office of Student Financial Assistance, a moment. So let's just change right over there. Mr. Dorsett, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. I know there was a question in regards to the EA program for fiscal 25. And I had sent over a kind of overview of where we're at for fiscal 25 in regards to EA awards. I can also share this with the group after the meeting. For fiscal 25 currently, give me 1 minute, please. Okay, so for fiscal 25, we have awarded a total of 190,455 in EA awards. That includes the Guaranteed Access Grant renewals, Guaranteed Access Grant initials, and Educational Assistance Grant renewals. Of students awarded, we have 1,020 students who have been awarded and not accepted, for a total of $5,474 and $400. Students awarded, there are awarded and accepted, there are 15,868 students for a total of $118,616,055. We still continue to receive ISA records, FAFSAs, from the 24-25 award year from the Department of Education. These are students who completed the FAFSA prior to June 1st. Additionally, the federal government just opened up where now as a state agency, we can request FAFSA. So we had a large amount of students that still, we never received their FAFSA. The federal government has now opened that up as the end of last week where we can request those. So we're going out to test that to make sure that we can actually request those records and receive those records. So based off that, we may have more students that are still being awarded at this time. Based off the agreement with the Department of Budget Management and the Governor's Office, we made sure that we would award all Guaranteed Access Grant renewal students and initial students, and then if there was money left over, award renewal students. We would not award any GA initials, as many of you know, until all funds have been awarded to, or all students that are eligible for the Guaranteed Access Grant have been awarded. As I indicated, we are still working to award individuals that are eligible for the Guaranteed Access Grant as we receive records from the Department of Education, and we have not been authorized to award any EA initials at this time. With that, I'll open up to any questions anyone may have for us. Brad.
Hi, Al. A couple of things I'm just curious about. With no new EAs being awarded, it kind of has a feeling like community college students are actually taking the blunt of sort of the changes that have been made with the way the EEA awards are dispersed. So I'm curious, I know there used to be years ago a report on how much financial aid was awarded by segment to students by EEA awards to community colleges, to private independent institutions, to public four-year institutions, so that there could be some better representation of how the money is actually how it's flowing. I haven't seen anything like that in a number of years. It would be really helpful to share with my presidents the changes, some of these that have happened, and the impact that they may have made over the years to community colleges, especially being a segment that has a lot of high need. And that would be one question I would have. The second, out of the 1,020 students that you have sent award letters to, but they have not accepted, is that in both programs, EA and GA, or is that just EEA and or one of the other programs, I guess?
That is in both programs. So with the Educational Assistant Grant renewals, there's 97 students. With the Guaranteed Access Grant, there's 890 students. The Guaranteed Access Grant initials, 890 students. Sorry about that. Guaranteed Access Grant renewals, there's 24 students. And then we have our next generation, which are Guaranteed Access Grant students, but we just segmented off for reporting purposes. But for the next generation GA initials, it's 9 students.
Okay. Are those just problems that the students haven't been confirmed that they're enrolled at that particular institution, or are there is it back end sort of they had multiple institutions listed on their ICER, therefore they you're having some difficulties tracking them down, or is it just simply they haven't accepted the awards?
This is simply these students haven't accepted the awards. We're awarding on a weekly basis. Still, as we run our waitlist report and identify students that are ready to be awarded, then we go ahead and process that award. Awards stay in a status of in which the student can accept or decline the award for 6 weeks. So this is kind of a overlay of students as we award each time in these different programs. After 6 weeks, if the students do not accept the award, and we send students multiple communications that they've been awarded and to accept the awards, but after 6 weeks, the awards cancel out on these students.
Okay, thank you.
As far as the report you indicated, I did provide that to Dr. Rye. I can provide another one to share with the segmental. Matt.
Thanks, Al. 2 questions. One is, so if I'm a GA initial student this year that I have not received my award yet, I mean, it seems like the percentage of students that would have gone through 2 semesters, my family makes $39,000 and I didn't get a GA award. I mean, are these students accepting them still? Or is the percentage of students who are accepting that in March like 2%?
So the acceptance rate, because we're doing in small batches, we haven't been able to fully test out the acceptance rate on these students yet. We do a comparison on a weekly basis, but again, when you're looking at the aspect of awarding individuals each on a weekly basis, you look at the aspect of, I'm always going to have a combination of students for multiple weeks. So with that, it's hard to really identify which students are accepting in 1 week and which students are falling off.
Okay, it would just seem tough for a student to make it through without a GA to get to March if they, why would they go on campus if they didn't have the money, right? But anyway, so, and are you also saying for the current fiscal year, even if you wind up with money left over, you will not award any EA initials, even though the funding would be there?
So I won't award any EA initials until I get authorization to award EA initials. This report is provided to the governor's office and Department of Budget Management, as well as our senior leadership on a weekly basis. So they're monitoring it and seeing it, but I can't make any moves on awarding until I get authorization to award EA initials. At this point in time, it would be very difficult to award EA initials, especially with promise, because EA initials, especially at the community college level, would knock out promise awards, and we need to make sure those students accepted. But that may leave institutions where they awarded promise, and now promise may come back to them. So it's a strategy that if the go-ahead is given, that it needs to be discussed on how we maneuver so that we don't mess students up with providing them additional funds.
Right, and I know that you can't do it without Al, but I would say that the statute does direct the executive branch to do it. So if you're making a decision not to do that, I know it's not your decision. I get that, but you do have the authority to award it. Obviously, if MHEC and the administration chose to award it.
So I know we have the authority to award up to our annual allocation, which is what we're already over. So when we talk about awarding any additional funds, that is what has been approved up to through the governor's office and DBM along with us. So I let Dr. Rye speak on that more as well. But, those are the limitations that I could say MHEC does have.
Fair enough, and I don't need an answer on the other one. This last question on the amount that you have awarded up to the appropriation, but you have not dispersed to the appropriation. Is that correct?
No, we are still waiting for institutions to certify and request payments on awards. So we've done about 70 million right now in regards to institutions that have requested funds, and we've done the invoices to pay towards institutions.
Thank you, Alan.
You're welcome.
Yes. Yeah, I would like to ask Al. A request was made for promise scholarships because until now they are not available for summer students. Can you tell us a little bit what are you doing to help in that front?
Yeah, so we've already talked with the current vendor Interclips. It looks like we can do it. It is going to take some time, but we will be updating the roster to have a summer field. With the roster that we've been adjusting, and we've been working with the financial aid directors across the board at the community colleges, the roster now has a award field and a paid field, so that the institutions are able to put students' award amounts for all 3 semesters in there without the funds having paid, because they know that some semesters have not started yet. And then when the semester starts, they can put that paid amount and it will update that. So they'll be able to report and kind of identify what they've awarded and then what they paid at the later point of time. But we will have that summer available, and then we'll work out with the institutions the reporting wise on that so that they have enough time to report.
Dr. Phillips?
I have 1 second, apparently. I want to be very quick. Thank you for working with our institutions on allowing them to be eligible for Promise during the summer. Just in case you don't feel the love sometimes, just thank you very much.
Thank you. Can you take the word to presidents at your segment and make sure that the students are aware?
I will definitely do so.
Now there is everything that could be done in Promise has been done. So make sure that these funds are utilized. Another good news on Al's side is we have contracted with the vendor Attain Partners, and we will start building the new MDCAP system. A lot of the problems that we have is because of this system. And what Al will be doing, he'll be having a users group where your segments will be represented. At every stage of the development, you will have an opportunity to provide feedback. And we want to do it in a way so that we don't get into the same problems as federal government did last year. So we want to make sure we don't get into trouble, but we develop a system that's state of the art, and do it in a manner so that it's least financially least burdensome on our taxpayers. So thank you very much again for all the wonderful work that you're doing, given the very challenging circumstances. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.